Welcome everybody, Nitty Gritty. We're back and we've already had a really fun time before the episode even started. So we know it's going to be a good time. We have
had an episode where it wasn't a good time, where it was really fun up front.
Oh no.
I won't name names. Sorry to cut off your intro.
I love how you put people on blast like that.
But I mean,
pretty
it's scary.
savage.
Based on
Now
the
I'm
pregame,
nervous.
you never know, right?
I'm gonna go find it and I'm gonna
No,
comment
I
it
can
on
already
the thing.
tell the mics are on and you guys are still in that same energy level. But the people I was referring to, they were like the same pregame discussion.
Sure.
And it's just like, oh yeah, so
Anyway, now we're gonna
what was I saying? Anyway, I won't
we
say
love
who.
all of the guests that come on Nitty
Of
Gritty.
course,
I
If you
of
can't
love
tell, we
most
will
of the
never
guests.
say anything bad about you. We won't judge you.
And if we do,
won't mock
no one will
you.
know who we're talking about.
I better.
I won't I'm not Taylor Swift. I won't.
You
name
won't write an
names. I won't
album
write a
about it?
song.
I want to hear the tea. Next podcast,
Right.
something to be like, just bash me. You're like, he came in looking like a hobbit, man. Just a straight homeless person.
Not gonna happen.
Oh, did I even get to the introduction yet?
No,
Before
I'm
you cut
sorry.
me off?
I'm sorry. It just had to be
my.
said. It had to be said.
So we have Natalie Madsen and
Hey.
Stacey. Is it Harkey?
Stacey Harkey.
Harkey
Yeah.
with us from JK Studios.
Woohoo.
Yo.
That's
So
We have a song, but we're not gonna do it right now.
yeah. We should have
So-
prepared our theme song.
well, I think we need a theme song now.
Oh boy.
Oh shoot.
Go, Stacey.
I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Don't do
I was trying to think of something we've done. I was like, I know this.
Stacey's the kind of person who he'll hear a song and then he'll re-sing it but change all the words all the
I
time.
love people
not-
who do that.
it's not on
if they're
purpose.
good at it.
It's because I have a
Right, and
bad
it'll be like-
memory.
Right.
But it'll be like when he's like doing dishes or something and he doesn't even know anyone's listening and we're like, Stacey, what are you doing?
You can tell we all live together. They're like, I'm in everyone's
we
kitchen.
live near each other. We do.
Oh man,
So how long have you guys known each other then?
Oh, 80 years.
80 years.
80 years this fall.
We met in 2000. Was it 2000 when I got back from my mission?
Probably
And, like,
8 or 9.
No, because I got back in 10. So like
Oh.
around 2010.
Cheapers.
Probably
10.
11, 10, 11.
Sure.
She's actually the one that got, like, one of the people that pushed me into doing comedy.
Yeah, so we met, I had just finished college. Well, I guess it was probably my senior year of college. I was in a group called Divine Comedy. I got in my freshman year. That was in 2007. I had no idea what sketch comedy was. I came to BYU. My sister was here. And I think it was like 2 or 3 days after I just got here. It was like our first Friday night at college. And my sister was like, oh, there's these auditions for this group. You should go. Like knowing that I would just do it because it sounded fun. And I was like, sure. And so like I threw together an audition in like 20 minutes, didn't even think about it. And it was right at the time when the Twilight books were coming out.
Oh, okay.
And it like the Twilight books had like just come out. That's how old I am, I
don't
guess.
think
I'm
talked
aging
to my
myself.
wife for like 3 weeks when those came out.
Oh my gosh. So I was like, okay, I'll just do this like crazy person obsessed with Edward the Vampire. And so I just did it and I got in. And so I did
So
Divine
what does that
Comedy.
mean? You just did it? Like
I
if
just
someone
I
said,
just like
"She's
do an
prepared.
audition
good.
for comedy, I'd be like,
No.
The audition
Knock,
was really
knock.
simple actually. All it said on the flyer was like, you have 2 minutes, just make us laugh. And so I
Okay.
just got on the stage and I was just like, all right. And I just did it. I did a little bit of a theater in high school, so I was pretty comfortable on a stage, but like, I don't know. It sounded like a fun thing to do on a Friday night. We had nothing else to do. It was like one of those things.
that does not sound like a fun thing to do on a Friday night to
Like-
me.
At
but like,
BYU?
honestly, though,
At BYU.
I know at
it does.
BYU, I mean, guys,
What else
everything
you gonna do,
closes
like,
at
read
7
the
p.m.
scriptures or
Yeah.
Like,
But
I guess we're not drinking tonight.
I-
So yeah, okay. Let's go do
this sounds
let's go do
good.
sketch comedy.
This sounds good. But I honestly think, like, I had never been to a show before. I didn't know what the group was. And if I had like gone to a show and then heard there's auditions, I would have been too afraid. I think I would have been too intimidated to actually like do it.
So ignorance was bliss for
Absolutely. I think so. And just kind of like, I was so naive and just like, what do I have to lose? This sounds fun. I'll do that.
you. Did you talk anybody into doing it with you, or did you go by yourself?
No, but I talked like my whole floor of girls. I lived in Helaman Halls, like the dorms.
Freshman.
So yeah, freshman year. So I talked everybody into, I was like, hey, I'm doing this thing. And everyone was like, okay. And so like probably 15 or 20 girls came with me.
Okay.
So that helped, but I was the only one that auditioned. Anyway, so I was in this group for like 4 years and my brother
Yeah.
My brother was coming out to school, and Stacey was an RA, and he was giving tours
One of those
to new freshmen.
those like D-bags on
And so
campus.
I was
that's
with,
like,
I was with
hey,
like, no,
no one
Stacey
can
was
have fun.
But I was with like my dad and my brother, and they were doing this tour of the dorms, and Stacey was like our tour guide. And I remember my dad being like, "Hey, this guy's really fun. You should tell him to audition for Divine Comedy." And I was like,
cool.
"Good idea."
He's cool.
Yeah, my dad's really raspy voice. He was like, "Hey, this guy's really funny." And I was like, "Okay." And so I was like, "Hey, I know you don't know me, but there's auditions tomorrow or whatever." And I think somebody else had told you to audition too.
Yeah,
so
one of
I just kinda
my
gave him
boys in the
nudge.
dorms was like, I want to do it, but I don't want to do it alone. Will you do it with me? And I was like, I'm a supportive person. That's like my thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'll do it with you. But I'm not a funny person. I'm like the benefactor of my dad's will. I'm like the serious one in the family. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
But you have a great energy. I think that's what
Yo,
what brings people to you. So
Never
How can you
considered
say you're
myself
not a funny person?
Dude, if you meet my family, you'll know. I've never was the funny one growing
That's
up.
really that's funny.
Yeah, so family,
It's true.
family's
Well,
wild.
I have a feeling it's like anybody that's good at something, they're really hard on themselves. Or they're just,
sure.
or it's like imposter syndrome, which
Oh yeah.
we used to talk
100%.
about that almost
day.
every episode.
I mean,
Right?
I feel like the last 10 years of my life have been I'm still in
Absolutely
imposter
right.
syndrome, 100%.
Absolutely
Like,
right.
there's
But that's
no
probably what makes you great at what you do.
So that humility, that
you feel like you have to
willingness
work.
learn.
I'm
That's
not funny, so I have to work really hard.
Yo,
Yeah,
and I did it, and I got in, and that just like changed. I was gonna be a lawyer.
yeah.
Changed my whole career.
Lawyer too. Hey, that's a stage if you think about it. If you're a litigator,
It's true. It's true.
yeah, you are acting.
My
right?
dad's still sad about it. He's like, man, we really needed a lawyer in the family. Now you just crack jokes.
You never know. You never know where no, you won't be a lawyer. I'm sorry. I don't
know.
I was like, maybe you still could. Nah.
Nah.
Like, that's not you.
It's not that.
So, like, I mean, I'm really curious. So, growing up, we kind of talked a little bit about growing up, but was it natural to be? I mean, you said you did theater,
Perform.
Natalie. Like,
I did,
were you
I
performing
did
or
theater
funny?
a little
Like,
bit. Yeah. So I have 4 sisters and 1 brother. So I grew up with just a ton of sisters, and I don't look a lot like my sisters. And if my sister's listening, she's going to feel mortified. But my older sister is just like this gorgeous blonde. She's like short. She just doesn't look like me at all. And she always got straight A's. You know, she's the first child, you know, type A, did everything right. And then I'm the crazy second child. And I feel like I was always that way because I just felt like my sister was perfect, and I'm never going to be perfect. So I might as well be the opposite of that. If that makes sense. like that's just kind of how I
I'm
always
going the
felt.
other
It was
way.
just like, you know what? She's got the perfect thing going on. Good for her. I need a personality because this ain't going to do it. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
Like that's, I
Isn't
think
that
that's-
crazy when
I
she
think-
talks like that? You're like,
No,
Natalie,
I think
you're
that's
gorgeous.
how you grow up. I think you grow up especially with sisters. Like you compare your physical, like what you look like so differently. And I was just always this tall, gangly, awkward girl.
well, you always compare like your worst features to someone else's best
Of
features,
course,
right?
Of course,
And
And
everything.
And it's obviously something that I've like grown into, but I think growing up, I was just like, well, I'm like this awkward weirdo, so I'm just going to really be an awkward
I don't
weirdo.
know. I think that's type A though. I think you're just like
It
I'm
might
type
be.
A, so I want to stand
It
on.
is
I want to
because
do my own thing.
It's like,
I'm not
sure.
going to
It's
just
like, I
do
want
what
to be
she's
the
doing.
best at something.
Right.
So
Right,
So I'm going to
right.
go over here and do
This.
my
Yeah.
thing.
And like knowing Natalie, you are like type A.
I know. I'm not type A.
You're
I'll
not
say that.
you're like
Like I hear
very
you like
organized.
knock things off of the craft service table. Like,
Oh, I'm.
Oh no, she's not that
I'm
type
just
of type
that
A.
was a joke.
No, no.
It's like,
I've known you for 10 minutes, and I can already tell you're a very sweet
I was
person.
like,
You would
between
never
us,
do that.
I would be more likely to knock stuff off a craft table.
That's maybe
But just because I was
true.
too excited about food
Yeah, I
or
was about to
something.
say, as you're like, these are so good.
Ah.
That's what you do.
Oh man.
It's like, has your family been surprised at, like, I mean, when you went and tried out for the comedy thing,
I don't
were they
think it
surprised?
was a shock.
Okay.
I don't think that kind of thing was a shock for them. That's pretty typical Nat. But I think it was maybe a surprise for Stace. Because like Stace didn't grow up doing theater or anything.
No, I tried to do theater in high school, and they were like, "Sorry, we don't have any black roles."
Oh, of course they were. Because they probably did.
I'm from Texas, you know.
It was pre-Hamilton days.
I was gonna say. I was just gonna say that. It's like back when it's like everything had to be
Well, it was
like
basically
it's a white
Lion
guy, so
King
it's got to
or
be a white
nothing.
guy, right?
Oh. I was like in high school too, so that was like very. I was very shy growing up, so that was very formative for me.
Yeah.
Where in Texas are you from?
I'm from like the Dallas area, but
Okay.
where I went to high, like when I wanted to get and try something out, I was like trying to push myself. I was in a little town called Little Elm,
Oh wow.
and I hope everyone hears this and like burns it down because they're racist. I'm just kidding. No, it was just that one snafu. But I think it was really meaningful for my like growth and stuff. It got me where I am today, so I'm not mad about it.
Where's Little Elm?
Little Elm is. Are you familiar with the Dallas area?
A little bit.
If you know Frisco, The Colony.
Right.
It's like 40 minutes from Dallas, like
Okay.
downtown Dallas.
So just like outer suburbs.
Yeah.
Type
It's like
thing.
there's the suburbs, and then there's like Little Elm's like a suburb of a suburb.
Gotcha. It's like
They were-
Eagle
they
Mountain.
were-
It's like Eagle Mountain.
Huh?
It's like Eagle Mountain here.
Yeah, but
I don't even know
way
what that is.
countrier.
Sounds right.
It's like way out on the other
It's
side of
like
Utah
Saratoga
Lake.
Springs.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
further.
Little
like
Elm-
10 more minutes.
Got it.
Little Elm was like a trailer park town. You know what I mean? So like if Eagle Mountain, if you cut the income in like half, and then half again, that was Little Elm.
Okay.
So what'd you do growing up then?
So I was in like, I'm such a nerd. I love it. I did debate. I did. You know,
Marching
it's probably
band?
like- yeah, I did band.
I think about that
wow.
all the time.
You know what's funny though? Is like band was such a cool thing in Texas.
Yeah.
Anything that
I was
surrounds
going to
football.
say that's performing.
But it's like anything that, well, you know what
What
I mean. I was like
instrument, though?
playing the trombone in a group of like 15 other people.
I just love thinking about it.
Brent
I love
said
thinking
you played
about
trombone in the marching band?
What a nerd. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. No, but where are you from? You're from here? When I came to Utah and I was like, oh yeah, I was in the band, and people were like, you the band? And I was like, what is the? It's
I
a different.
think-
It's like a
It's
thing
very,
here.
very different.
I was like,
For
Yeah,
anything that
in
surrounds
Texas,
football.
I think it's like a cool
Yo,
thing.
anything around football
Yeah.
in Texas is like big. That's
Yeah.
like
For
if
sure.
you weren't in the after parties unless you were like involved in the game somehow.
Right,
you know what I
right,
mean?
right.
Which is cool. But
I just like imagining Stacey as a teenager just walking around with a trombone. It just makes my heart really happy.
I didn't like carry it around with me like a like
Don't ruin this for me. Don't ruin
Oh,
it.
hold on. It's in my
wallet.
trunk. I'll go grab it.
I
oh
have
someone need a trombone? I got you. You need a little bit of this?
So what brought you to Utah then?
College.
Okay.
It's so funny, guys. I grew up broke in Texas, and I almost joined the military because I have no money in the family. But then someone was like, "Wait a second, you're in the top 10 of your graduating class. You should be getting scholarships."
Yeah.
And I was like, how does one do that? I was seriously like, had no idea. And so someone
Well,
at
Stacey's the first in his family to go to college.
someone in a counselor at BYU in the Multicultural Center just like took me under his wing, and he was like, "There's no reason you shouldn't be in college." So he like walked me through like how to apply to college.
How'd you get that connection?
Yo, like the church. I had the LDS church. I had a bishop who like knew this guy, and he was like, "Yo, we can make this happen."
Oh, cool.
It was amazing. It was great, and it like changed.
And
my
Stacey
family.
worked really hard.
Yeah, and
He worked
I
hard to
like
get
I didn't play that, so I came to
Yeah.
college just like got scholarships.
Well, yeah,
People
you're
would
gonna
always
be an attorney.
yeah, I was gonna be a lawyer. I was like after I came to college, I was like, oh, I'm smarter than I realized. You know, comparison, I guess.
Everyone around me's stupid.
No, people all the time would be like, you know, you're just here because you're black, right? And then
That
I'd
makes
be
me
like,
so angry.
Hold on, they legit said that?
oh yeah, they thought they were doing me like a favor. They were like, just so you know, affirmative action. But I remember one guy said that to me, and I hope he probably knows who he is. But one guy said it to me, and then he had me proofread one of his papers.
What's his
and
name?
That was I'm not saying.
Okay.
It was the
Sometimes-
biggest.
I just hope I get
What's his
just
name?
one time someone's just like, oh, this.
It was like the biggest boost to my self-confidence, because like people tell you that, and you're like, oh shoot, I'm like this broke kid. Someone had to hold my hand to help me apply to college. But then I proofread one of his essays, and I was like, oh no, I'm definitely smarter
I'm
than
better
him.
at this. Yeah.
I was like, like, seriously, it like changed the game for me,
Good.
which is so sad.
That is sad. But I'm happy that it
Yeah.
changed at least.
And it's good because it pushes me to work harder. You know, it's like I got to prove that I'm here, because people will constantly doubt. You know what I mean? So
Do you still feel that?
I feel that way to a degree in like most like fields. You know what I mean? You go into it and you're like, I want to show that I earned this, especially after doing like Studio C. You know what I mean? And going to JK Studios.
Yeah.
I want to be like, yeah, we didn't get lucky with Studio C. We like honed our skill and like worked for that. So I want to
Yeah.
crush it with JK. You know what I mean?
I think sometimes, especially when you work in comedy, people don't understand the time and effort it really takes to make these videos. Like, we'll have people come and be like extras on a set, and they'll come and it's a 12-hour day for one sketch, and they're like, why does it take, like, whoa, who are all these people, and how long do we have to be here? And wait a second, how many times do you have to do that take? And it's like, no, you don't understand. Like, that's a typical day for us.
Yeah,
like
right.
and then that's just the shooting. And then the writing takes months and months of work. And it's really fun. And so I think a lot of times when people watch it, they think like, oh, they probably just like roll the camera and 10 minutes later they're done, right? Because it's fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, no, not exactly.
It's like a pro athlete. I mean, you see the game on Sunday, right?
Right, exactly.
But
yeah.
they're working out and practicing 12 hours a day like, for 6 days. Leading up to
Well,
that.
you had talked about Jerry Seinfeld talked about like, how long it takes him to write like his stand-up bit.
Right.
And it was like
Forever.
It was crazy amount of time for like
Well,
a little
and then you go work it out.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
then you go with
like
stand-up, they have to
little
travel
pull-ups.
and test and test and test. And it takes so much
I
time.
listen to Rogan's podcast a lot. And so you kind of get to hear that. I mean, that's a crazy life. You would have to absolutely love what you're doing to do that.
We were last year we got to be on a show on NBC called Bring the Funny. It was like a competition.
Right.
So they had stand-up, sketch, and then like variety comedians. So that was really the first time I'd interacted a ton with like stand-up comedians, and it was so interesting. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
Because the stand-up crowd, like everyone was very nice. We made lots of friends. It felt like comedy summer camp. Like it was just really fun. It was like we lived in a hotel for a month in LA, and we were on this competition show. It was the most bizarre thing ever.
It was crazy.
But
it was weird.
All the stand-ups were very much like they're used to being alone. They're used to living in a hotel. And then all these sketch groups were like, let's be friends
Connection.
and let's go out to eat and let's talk. Like they were just such extroverts. And that
Is there like a weird like I'm judging you because you're sketch? And
no, I don't think so. I never felt that. There might have been.
There was one guy I kept because I'm like a pretty friendly guy.
Say what's his name?
I'm not gonna say it, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. He was
I would have
kinda
waited just like
He was
another
kind of
20
cold.
seconds. Like right after a nice thing.
I outed your
Like,
strategy.
oh, what was
I
your
can't even
what was
remember his name, dude. But he was kind of cold, and then he like. There were some people that were there were some stand-ups especially that were kind of like mean, but I think they just come from a dog-eat-dog
I
world.
think you kind of have a certain personality.
have
Like,
that,
you know,
like-
like surgeons have to kind of have a certain personality to like be a surgeon. I feel like stand-ups
Well,
are kind of
Rogan
like that.
Rogan says that he's like, there's no good stand-up comedians that aren't like broken, depressed people.
Yeah.
Like they're
comedians
all
in
just
general, man.
Comedians in general, like I think, was it Robin Williams used to say that?
Robin
Just like,
Williams says that said that
like,
a lot.
Yeah, where like people get into comedy because they know how sad you can get and they don't want anyone to feel that way. Like,
Yep.
like I feel like so many comedians I know also have depression.
Do you feel like that though?
Yes.
Like with personally?
Yeah.
Like you get into it because you know how sad and like the
Yeah.
love? Oh man, I might be a little unique there.
Like I've yeah, that's true. I've mainly I haven't struggled a ton with depression, like postpartum depression for sure.
Oof.
But then after I have kids, I'm like, man, I want to go out and make more comedy. Like I have so much more ideas after like have gone through that. So that's interesting.
Well, you
Interesting
get
thought.
you get a lot of your material from like I always think of that Ryan Hamilton. You know, he does
Yeah.
clean stuff.
So funny.
But he makes
We
so
love
many
Ryan.
sarcastic jokes about like, I mean, I just sit alone in my apartment all day with the lights off,
Right.
and what's that? It's probably true.
I know you're like
That's why
Right.
coming from a real place.
For
It's
sure.
so funny. It's like,
Yeah, it's true.
I just remember the first line of his special. He comes out and he's smiling and just goes, well, this
big
is
old
my
goofy
face.
smile.
This is my face.
I was like, I love this guy. But it's probably
He's
because
hilarious.
I'm assuming he was bullied or something. You know what I mean? He probably doesn't have the most self-confidence about it, but now he does.
What's so crazy
really
about
like
him?
it.
I saw him. I talked about it at a Jim Gaffigan show. So he opened for Jim Gaffigan,
Uh-huh.
and then I watched his stuff on what was the comedy show he was on.
Oh, I just watched his Netflix special.
He's been on Conan. He's been on a few like
But
late
he was on
nights,
something.
too. Yeah.
But it was insane. He did the same bit, and it was. I've never seen something so identical before.
oh,
Like
yeah.
the way his eye, like
Interesting.
the way he blinked, the way he
Yeah,
smiled when he
interesting.
turned, the
It's also
timing.
worked out.
It
just
was
has it down.
It was mechanical.
Yeah.
It was like that's insane.
And
That's
in real
cool.
life,
Yeah.
he's probably nothing like that.
Zero. You would have thought
In
that
real
he
life,
was
he's
just
probably no fun to be around.
well, but even listening
ran
to him
into him at
live,
the airport.
you would have thought he was all off the hip. Which
I would
Right,
say that
right.
like, probably it's like a testament of like how much work he puts into it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Owns it.
Yep.
Right.
Oh man.
So much practice, so much time.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize how much you have to work for what we're doing. Because like we've had early on in Studio C, we had a few kind of runaway hits. We had Scott Sterling. We had a few other things go pretty viral. And I think going viral can be really tough, but going viral and then maintaining for years and years, like that takes more than just talent or like a flash in the pan. It takes like really consistent work, like for years.
I just saw a comedian talking about it where they're like, we're one of the few jobs where you can't just like do it once and people are like, oh yeah, you're good at it. You have to constantly be like proving yourself again. I imagine a lot of creative jobs are like that though.
Yeah, that's
like,
true. That's
you know, it's like you can't just like
so much pressure.
Yeah.
Well, and it's the saying, you're only as good as your latest thing you've released. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, Scott Sterling was successful. It was like 6 years ago. So that's
why Eddie Murphy hasn't done anything in 30 years. It's like, I'm good.
Because you know what? Let's just
I'll just leave this
alone.
body of work right here and just
let it stand for itself.
Yep.
The cool thing about Scott Sterling though was that we had already had like hundreds of videos out.
Yeah.
And we had been working really hard to get like, because we were like, we felt like what we did was good. We've been like pouring our soul into it, but it wasn't like quite the growth that we had maybe wanted.
Yeah.
But once Scott Sterling hit, it just brought a lot of attention to our other content and
the
everything.
goalie and the
Yeah, just getting hit in the face with a soccer ball. And then it just like, it brought everything up, and it was kind of cool because it was kind of a tipping point for us where it was like, oh, and all of a sudden people were like, oh yeah, the rest of your stuff is pretty good too.
Right.
Which we were like,
it was
it does
definitely
get more people pulled in. Right?
Yeah, it was definitely a good break, and I think it went so well just because it's this like, it's sports, it's this universal language. Like it blew up in South America because you don't need to know English to know that it's funny that this guy keeps on getting hit in the
Just
face.
pain,
You know what
man.
I mean? Like it's just such a physical, universal, like it was a uniting kind of comedy. And so that's kind of what we leaned into. So like, we're not out to like alienate. We're not out to be super specific to super niche groups. Like we want to create stuff that anyone can think is funny and that you feel comfortable watching with your family. Like we never set out to be like, let's make a kid's show. Like that was never, it was always like, let's just make what we think is funny. And apparently we have the sensibilities of children because the kids love the show.
My favorite is when parents are like, there's this one lady came up to us with this, she's holding a baby and she's like, my daughter loves your show.
And she's talking about the baby?
She's talking about her 6-month-old. And she like names this like, this one sketch about, you know, it's personified countries. And I was like, your 6-month-old daughter
Your 6-month-old is catching the nuance.
I was like, whatever, I'll take that. You can have that. That's fine.
So how did Studio C start for you guys then?
Studio
what
C
did that look like?
So when Studio C started, so a little bit back when I was in college, we submitted like we put together a proposal as Divine Comedy to BYUtv to make Divine Comedy TV is what we called it.
Okay.
And that was back in like 08 or 09.
And how many people were part of Divine Comedy?
There's always like 10-ish people. People would come and go and graduate, and it was always changing. But that's how there's 10 of us that started the Studio C, and that's how we all met. So back when I was in college, before Studio C, we submitted like a proposal, and BYUtv was like, "Yeah, we don't do that," and we were like, "Okay."
They say
So
that
just
to everything.
it was
Oh
just
my
like
gosh.
The automobile, it'll never
it was
catch on.
it was a
I was
really
gonna say, you pitching something to BYUtv, like that's your first hurdle.
Yeah, So but I remember at the time feeling like totally rejected, being really discouraged. And then a couple years later, they kind of switched around. Like there was a new director of content, there was new people in place, and we had a producer who wanted to help. So then we kind of developed the show again. We shot like a test pilot. I was pregnant with my son at the time. I remember just puking my guts out backstage. But
She goes hard, man.
we shot the pilot, and I remember I paid my babysitter more than I made. And I always say that the first 2 seasons
money.
I paid my sitter more than I got paid. Like we lost money for me to do that show. I just loved it so much. I just really wanted to do it. And so anyway, we did the little pilot. They were like, "Don't quit your day job." So like I was a teacher during the day. James was an engineer. We all had these 9-to-5 jobs, and then we'd come together at night and write season 1 or season 2 and rehearse and stuff. And then originally when it first started, there were 6 of us, and then they trimmed it down to 4, and then they brought the rest of us on. So there's all these personnel changes. There was a lot of moments where it was like super discouraging and really no reason to keep working at it other than we loved it. Like I didn't feel encouraged in any other way other than I have so much fun doing
Felt, if anything, it was almost like
it was
trying
like
to push you away.
Yeah, like I'm tired. I have like a 2-month-old. When we shot the first season, it was 2 weeks after I had a baby. I was
2
so
weeks?
tired.
She had her baby on set. You were like breastfeeding when you could, but had your baby there.
Yeah, I would just
And then-
like go and pump, and then it was just.
and
it
the
was
director would be
nuts.
like, "Oh, suck it up. We all make sacrifices." And it was like, "Bruv, she just shoved a child out of her body." Like, dang. I remember that.
It was just a different time in the workplace, I think, for women, especially for
She's so positive. I'm gonna be savage about it. They were completely. That was disrespectful and just like tacky. It was just tacky. But I think it's people trying to do their best with what they have, and they just didn't have much.
This is BYUtv.
I think so too.
This is probably more individuals. But
It's probably more individuals.
It's like we are the baby making capital of the universe. It's like you would think that.
Well, maybe that's why they're like,
it's not like
does it.
They're like,
Well, like
it's not like the 50s.
I think it's just. I mean, this is a whole different subject I could talk about forever. But like I've had interviews with people where they've asked like how I settle in my heart that I'm not home with my kids right now, or things where it's like, so where are your kids?
It's
and
so
I'm like,
shocking.
I don't know. My
to think that
husband's
those
at
people
work. You want to ask
still
him
exist.
where his
They're
kids
everywhere.
are?
Isn't that crazy?
Crazy.
Isn't that
It's
crazy?
just-
Such a double standard.
Anyway, it is a double standard. And like even in our group, we have a married couple in our group. Stephen and Whitney are in our comedy group, and they're both married, have the same job. They both have kids.
Wow.
They don't get the same questions. It's just really interesting. But anyway, don't want to get too
How do you
negative.
feel taking a job from a man?
Yeah, kind of.
It's like stuff like that where it's like,
Kind of. So anyway,
I mean, yeah.
so that was a really, I guess it's interesting now to think about like now in our company where I am versus that is very different.
because Natalie, talk about discouraging, always feeling like you're at the whim of others' decisions. And now Natalie's the CEO of our company.
Yeah, so I
She like calls the shots.
yeah, so it's just
So now
it's
you
kind
get to
of crazy.
discriminate against people.
That's right. So
Oh,
now,
you're a man.
so now I say to our men, you're taking a job away from a woman.
You're only here because we need a man as far as diversity goes.
That's right.
Prove yourself.
No.
No, you never yet.
But it has been quite a journey for sure. So yeah, with Studio C, we were there for 8 years.
So like,
A long time.
did you guys create it? I mean, was that like your guys' brainchild? Like you came up with the idea? Like that was kind of.
I mean, it was definitely the work of a lot of people, but the 10 of us that are still together, we were the core group that started the show.
Okay.
the writers, the performers.
Yeah, so we're the writer. There's we've used some outside writers every once in a while. We've had different producers and showrunners on the show, but for those 8 years, it was the 10 of us always in the room together
we
for sure.
we had some great producers too. I think
We
Jared
did.
Shores was just like, he had such good taste.
That's
Yeah.
the guy that Gold Yeller. So I've met him.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I've met Jared.
I kind of feel like
great.
Jared is just like, the dude has such great taste.
He has great taste. So
That's good.
So Jared and Matt are credited as like the co-creators of the show. So
Yeah.
so they really like, he was showrunning, he was really calling the shots. But then the 10 of us were writing and acting and everything too. So like I said, very collaborative effort.
Showrunning
We're
is
grateful
like,
for all of our team members.
for those that don't know, it's like the boss of the show, right?
Yeah. So
kinda
they
handle
see
everything.
things through from like pre-production writing to production shooting to post-production editing and
So
distributing.
let's
and
talk about
everything.
that. What goes into a skit? I mean,
Oh, snap.
So much.
give me an idea of
Sure.
all of the
Maybe like the
different
3 steps,
processes.
right? There's writing, like shooting, and then post. And maybe we
Yeah.
can talk about that.
And I mean, different sketches have different timelines. Like some sketches are really simple and I can sit down, I can just have like a really simple idea. I can sit down and write it in an hour. And there's other sketches I've spent weeks on.
So let's talk about Scott Sterling, for example, then. That's like a tangible example.
That's a good idea. So actually with Scott Sterling, I think we pitched it like a year or two before we ever shot it. And it was always like on the chopping block, like about to get cut. Like, I don't remember why, but for some reason there was a good number of people that were like, I don't see it. I don't know why it's going to be funny.
It's hard with comedy because it's so subjective, right?
So like, how many ideas typically do you bring before it like one makes it through?
For me, it's like 50-50 at least.
Yeah, I write 1 out of 3 sketches I write will probably get made.
Yeah,
So I know
that's
that
probably
like,
about
which is really helpful for me to know my like batting average because it was like, I can't get discouraged if like 2 don't like flop
Right.
or 3 flop. I know I got some.
You
good ones on the
definitely, with
horizon.
writing and comedy, I feel like you definitely fail more than you succeed.
That's
And you should just know that. Like, and I think it's something that over the years we've had to kind of learn and toughen up about. Like, I can go into a room and pitch a terrible script, which I have.
Oh.
And it doesn't mean I'm a terrible writer. It just means that was not a good idea. And I should move on to my next one.
What's
Like,
so
it's not
funny-
worth beating yourself up about it.
You can try that in everything in business. I mean, how many business owners had terrible business ideas?
Right.
Or athletes? Like the best athletes in the world they fail more than they succeed.
Right.
You know, like so. There's all.
It doesn't
these
mean you're
different
bad. It
Correct.
just means like you
It's
need
a
to
bad
just
game,
stand back up and
right?
keep going. Yeah.
And the number one, I would say the number one, like, what is the word I'm looking for? Like underlying success principle between everyone we've had on the show has been consistency.
Yeah.
Show up and keep going.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it's
No
not
matter
always
what
about
it
like
is.
every idea doesn't have to be a home run.
Yeah.
You just have to not stop.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sometimes it's
Like-
a numbers game.
And that's how I feel like even this year in 2020, we've for JK, we've been in such survival mode, but we've put out a video every week.
Yeah.
It's been hard.
It's been hard. Like, we don't have crews anymore because of COVID. So like we'll film ourselves on our iPhones and cut it together and put it out. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not the same as what it used to be, but we're still showing up for our audience. We're still putting out new content. We're still trying to make people laugh because this year has been insane and we feel like people still really need it. But it's been like, we just have to use what we have.
So true. It's like, no matter what happens,
working.
you got to show up, man.
Yeah.
You got to show up no matter how tired you are.
I feel like that's definitely been our theme of 2020. Just like, keep going.
It's just like, it's like treading water. It's like, we're not trying to win the race here. We're just trying to not drown. It's like, keep our head up.
That's right.
You make
so
it.
did all 10 of you write?
Yeah.
For Studio C?
Yeah.
I can just see. So there's got to be kind of limited space for who gets. I think it's Saturday Night Live. I was listening to Rob Lowe was on Joe Rogan, and he talked about the week he hosted, and he kind of talked about the writers' table and how like people would like laugh harder at their own stuff, or they
interesting.
They would throw shade at someone else's idea because they were all just trying to get their stuff. You know
what? I think what's really, I think a big difference between SNL and Studio C, like just to give you like an idea. So on SNL, a successful season for a writer, you get 2, maybe 3 sketches in.
Right.
In Studio C, it's just the 10 of us writing 200 sketches. So, all of us have at least 10 or 15, if not more.
Yeah.
Like we have so many sketches to fill. And then I think on SNL too, at least I've heard SNL's very, very cutthroat, very competitive.
Right.
And we're a group of friends that have known each other for 10 years. And once you bring a script to the room, it now becomes everyone's script and everyone's throwing jokes in it and everyone's helping it to be better. And by the time it makes it to air, I might have written it, but my original idea is maybe 50% of what you see. You know what I mean? Like it very much like, I think we've just over the years learned to just accept a good idea and help it as best we can, even if we don't necessarily get like the credit
the
for
bad
it.
ideas?
So this is
that would be the hard part.
I think this is kind of key though, is the fact that like, not like with SNL too, it's like these people are coming in individually.
Yeah.
We chose each other.
Yes,
in the process
we
of
did.
Divine
That's cool.
Comedy, part of our auditioning process was not just like, are you funny? A huge portion of our audition was, can we get along?
Yeah.
Will we be friends?
Right. Because like guaranteed there are 50 other funnier women in this town than me right now. 100%. But
Imposter syndrome.
but I'm not going to pretend like that isn't true, because I've met, there's hilarious people in the world, but we're all in the right place. We all get along in a certain way. And like Stacey said, like during the callback process, we always, like as a team, when we were paying attention to people to bring into the group, I was never listening for like the funniest joke of the day. I was watching how they worked with
How do they
the
treat
team.
each other?
That's cool.
So we would put them into groups and say, here's your prompt, go make a sketch. And we would just sit and watch them work. And there would be one guy who could just like nail the delivery of a joke, but he'd be a jerk. I'm not going to let him in. Like that's always just kind of been our motto, is like, we just want people that are good to work with, and the jokes will come. Like the comedy will come second.
And we put a lot of energy into that. Like
We
even
really do.
once people got into the group, and sometimes, you get to know people better, and it's like,
How'd
we're
you
not a
vote
great
someone
fit.
off the island?
It was tough, but democratic process. We would get together and be like, let's talk.
Yeah.
And decisions had to be made for the good of the group chi.
And I
we
think,
would not have lasted that long if it wasn't for that.
and I think through the years too, like I remember just to like, how do you say no to the bad scripts? I remember like the first few years of Studio C, it was really hard when I didn't have a script make it. But by year 4 or 5, you're just like, okay, like you kind of learn
Part
that
of the
like
process.
that's a part of the process.
You got to develop that like I don't know if callous is the right word, but you got to develop that like grit where it's like we use the term, is it kill your chicks? I say kill your babies,
kill
but
your
that's
babies.
It sounds so. That the reason we say it though,
or just say like it isn't your baby, like it's not yours anymore. Like it's
I
the
love
group's.
how intense it is, because it conveys that like you pour your heart and soul into this creativity, and you make this thing that's like in essence kind of feels like a piece of you.
Yeah.
And it's not always it. And you have to get good at being like, you know what? I'm going to suck it up. This is not the best. My friends are saving me embarrassment by helping
Sure.
me like let me know that this is maybe not going to be it.
Yeah.
That's
And you
really
move on.
funny. In my business, an older advisor's like, yeah, you got to learn how to tell people their baby is ugly.
Yeah.
It's like, what does that mean?
That's a great way to put it, though. It honestly kind of is.
You have to strategically be able to say that without them hating you.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like, you show up with a script, you got to be like, nope.
Well, and I think what's so great about comedy too, and this is where we really earned our stripes in Divine Comedy, because we would make a new show every month. We'd always be writing. We'd try it in front of an audience, and the audience laughs or they don't laugh. And that's
you get immediate feedback.
Yes, it's immediate, and it's either like that worked or that tanked.
No one can argue that.
I don't
no
care
one can argue
how good you feel about it. That is the evidence we're looking for. It's if people laugh or not.
And that's what, like, I mean, Conan says too, I'm still guessing when I write. I don't know if they'll laugh or not. Comedy is always guessing. You just have to test in front of an audience. If it works, keep it. If it doesn't work, change it. And that's been our reality for like 10 years now. So I think it just helps you get used to failing. Where like I for sure stood on a stage and said a joke I knew would kill it, and it was crickets. And I was like, well, I lived through that, moving on to the next thing.
Oh,
like that's worst case scenario.
What is that like?
Survive.
Oh, it's the worst.
I can't even
Have you ever died before? No?
A couple times.
No, that's not relevant. Have you ever I don't know, it's like the worst. It's
you know that dream where you show up to school naked? It's kind of like that.
that
You're
feeling.
like, crap.
Oh man, that feeling of like delivering a joke and then having it be like crickets is just like your face flushes.
It's
you
so
question
funny though, but
everything
you know
you've ever
what?
done in your life.
I'm so grateful for those
That'll
moments.
keep you humble for sure. Which I think in your group, that's a big deal, right?
It keeps you hungry to keep chasing, like, is that joke really going to cut it?
Do you remember the first time that happened?
Yeah.
Like, do you remember like the first time you just like totally?
Yeah, it was like my very first show in Divine Comedy. 100% I remember it.
Really? How do you remember
happens all
every
the time.
memory when you're like 12? You know what I mean? Like, how am I supposed to remember
I
that?
guess that's true. I just remember like the shock and then it's over though. Like that was it. That's the thing I was so nervous about. Yeah, it's just like, okay, that happened, and then they laughed a few seconds later.
You're
you know what I mean? It was just like, okay,
yeah.
Like,
I'm like
I
in
don't
the
know.
back, like pulling my hair out, like wailing.
I'm sure I overthought it after, but like there is something. I don't know. I think that anticipation is always worse than the actual just fail. Like Matt in our group always says, just fail quick. Like get it done, learn from it, get better.
Fail fast, fail forward.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's kind of a great knack though, that skill of like listening to the audience, because it can suck sometimes if it doesn't nail it, but that's where you know where you need to like up it.
Yeah.
So it becomes something we talk about where it's like hone that skill of like listening to the audience, because if
Yeah.
it doesn't work, in your memory you're like, that's where we can beef this up to make this a better product.
It's so funny how easy it is to draw parallels. Like, it's like your food. If they don't buy it, don't matter how much you like it.
Right.
Or
it either sells or it doesn't.
yeah.
Yeah.
If people come back, it was good. If they don't come back,
You know what's funny though? Sometimes, have you ever had this where it's like the opposite, where people laugh and you're like, "That was stupid. What are you laughing at?"
No.
I have that all the time. Like, this is so good. I'm like, this is a D+ at best.
Yes.
You're
no,
an idiot.
I totally. I have this sketch I wrote. Like, we would have writers meetings every week, and we always had to bring at least 2 scripts. And so it was one of those weeks where I was like, all right, here's some scripts. It's not my best. And it was some sketch about like April Fool's Day.
Oh, that sketch is killing it online too.
It
Oh,
got
I just watched that
millions
today.
of views, you
The one where you
guys.
like threw the treasure in the trash can and stabbed the guy. That was pretty funny.
It's not that funny. Like, I wrote it in like 30
I
minutes.
think you just made it funny. Like, just it's.
She's over
I
here
think
being
you
like,
carried that.
But
idea.
it's one of
crapped it
those
out.
sketches that I'm like, all right, let's just get this done. Like, it's not
so
my
funny?
best. It's not the funniest thing
Yeah,
ever. And then there's
something like
other
that.
things that I think this is my
magnum opus.
best I've ever done in my life, and then it does like
It's
fine.
it's totally parallel. Like some
Yeah.
of my biggest wins, like when I did competition barbecue.
Uh-huh.
Like, oh, no trophies today, no money today. Grand champion. Like, what the hell
So-
just happened?
It's just so subjective.
That's it. Like, what's the mood of your audience? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on in the world? Like, you just don't know what's gonna hit.
yeah.
And
They'll let
I
you know.
guess, yeah,
Well,
it's
and
like,
that,
hey,
like-
I'm still glad I won the grand championship.
I want to know
This
Yeah.
from
was the
you,
best food.
what's the food on the menu that you're like, it's not that great that people like, and what's the one that you're like, this is amazing, and it's not like the banger.
They're all bangers, guys.
I would say
you ever been
turkey's
here?
the one that I'm surprised takes so long for people to like try and be happy about.
Huh.
Haven't tried the turkey.
I have you say that. I don't
Same
think
with
I've tried the
sausage links. Like we do our own sausage
oh, the
here.
sausage links.
Oh, guys.
People in Utah that like where you're from,
Yeah.
like that's everything. Like your brisket and your sausage, like
Yeah.
your links are what make you a barbecue guy. But here, it's like, oh, you guys have sausage links? Like, they just think like breakfast sausage, right?
Oh, interesting.
And so they don't think
put it in
like
breakfast
big beef,
burritos.
pork, like, we're hand casing them. But I think I'm more surprised kind of like by the individual just perform. Like if I'm catering for somebody, this happens a lot when I'm off site and using other people's, like I'll travel and somebody will hire me to cook at an event, but I'm using equipment there and they just love the food. But I'm like,
it's not it.
Like when I put it out, I'm like, they're never going to call me back. Like this, I'm never going to cook on someone else's smoker ever again. Like I need my own stuff. And they just freak out, give you a $500 tip. And they just thought it was the greatest thing ever. And I'm like, if you think that was good, like you need to let me come back with my own gear.
Right.
That is fascinating.
And I'll blow your
that
mind.
maddening?
It drives me insane.
Yeah, like
that's so interesting.
I mean, but I think it just speaks to your talent of like, and I think like you're saying, like we're our own worst critics sometimes.
For
but
sure.
like that, I think that happens to everybody. Like I think all of us probably have a script like that April Fool's one for me, where I'm just like, oh, why did that do so well?
It almost makes you mad that it's doing.
It does a little, because it's just like I literally spent 30 minutes writing that, but I'll write like a song parody for weeks and it'll do like fine.
But how many of the greatest songs ever written were written on a napkin in 10 minutes?
That's it.
You know what I mean?
So I think,
do you have a rolling list? How do you know that?
I don't know. It's true though.
I'm kind of a documentary
Is that
nerd,
kind
and
of true?
I read, and I remember listening to Keith Richards' book,
Oh, okay.
and he talked well, look at Elton John. Like if you even if you watch that newer movie,
Yeah.
Where he kind of teams up with that guy, like some people just have that gift where it just kind of hits them.
It's
and
really
they just write
true.
it down, and it's like the greatest song ever written.
And maybe
so-
it kind of speaks to that, like you're not overthinking, you're just like letting
Absolutely right.
everything
It's
flow.
inspired action versus efforted action.
Yeah,
Love
exactly.
your quotes. We've got to start
Let's go.
having
get
like
that on a
a side
t-shirt.
Instagram for like the quotes he uses during the episodes.
I'm gonna
'Cause
need
they're
you to
so
make,
good.
make that like stencil for like
This is-
moms to put over their mantles.
Dude, he'll get like 3 or 4 more before this day's over, and they're always awesome.
There's a poet, I can't remember her name, but she would talk about how inspiration would come in like a storm, where it's like no matter what you're doing, you're chilling, and you see it on the horizon, and you gotta like rush as fast as you can to your notepad
Yeah.
and scribble it down before it like passes.
Well, that's like what
Do you guys have that kind of process? Like, do you always have like a note app open, or like what is that for you guys?
I do.
running
I
notes.
have a sketch list on my phone, and like we've done this before. I can like hold it up and you just go scroll. Like there's so many
Most
like
of them
little
are
ideas.
bad, not for me.
Tons of them are, or like I'll write something down in the middle of the night. Like Jerry Seinfeld has said this too, where like he'll wake up and be like, "What the?" But in the middle of the night, I'm like, "This is
Go.
great." Should I go back to sleep?
One of my ideas was once me and Jeremy, who's he's half Filipino. It's like me and Jeremy. I was like, the sketch idea was just we play every race and poorly. That was it. And I was like, we can't do that. We can't do that. Not in this economy. I was like, what am I thinking, man? Just like weird ones, man. Just
It's like the racial draft, Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
That was one of the greatest.
Oh,
I don't think you can get
Oh,
away
the
with it
racial-
now. You remember that?
with the
Where
I think-
he
I
played
think
every race.
Oh, is that
like
what it was?
Tiger Woods got.
I remember
like
the
black people.
I think that
they drafted
the
Tiger Woods. and it's
Chinese
like,
group got
for
the
shizzle.
Wu-Tang Clan.
For shizzle.
that one
I've
got
always
me.
wanted to say that.
You finally done it. This podcast is complete.
Oh my gosh. So funny. Speaking of cancel culture, man, Dave Chappelle is like, he's the best at navigating that, or he just doesn't care.
I marvel at him. He's just
I love
such
that he
a-
doesn't
such-
care. Like
such a boundary pusher.
I think he was ahead of the game at seeing how unhealthy the cancel culture was,
Yeah.
and he was gonna just like go head on at it.
Yeah.
And they're amazing.
I gotta say, I don't think it's just that he doesn't care. I think he just like knows how to navigate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because like we are like the squeakiest, cleanest comedy, and we still get people that are like, "How dare you wear a 2-piece in that video? My brother
Yeah.
watches this," you know, or like,
Or
I've
like,
been getting emails about this. Like I've had 5 emails about a Chicago Blackhawks flag that I have up front.
huh?
Like that's how crazy it's getting.
Because of the mascot.
oh man,
Right.
it's just like, and you
It's-
know what? I don't want to say it's just stupid or bad because I think it's complex, but I just wish people would
It
be
is
more willing to
complex,
have
but
like
it's
a
a little
conversation.
unhealthy. Like we're worrying about the wrong things.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I think for some people it matters. It's just it's such an interesting climate right now. That's all. Like
it's just all negative. That's the problem.
I'm not even going to pretend like
just...
cancel culture hasn't been positive, like making people change.
There's definitely things, but there are some other things where like
I just wish it'd be a conversation.
Like how
why can't we talk about it?
How many times does Kevin Hart have to apologize for a tweet from 7 years ago? You know what I mean? Like he's clearly changed. He like yes, you should not tweet homophobic things, obviously, but like I think the change and the apology and the changed action should be highlighted more than the negative from 8 years
human
ago.
nature.
Well, because everyone is trying to change right now, but it's like if everyone's just going to go back off of what you did X amount of years ago, it's like how is everyone going to have the motivation to change?
It's something I think we really need to figure out with the internet now. Like I didn't grow up tweeting what I thought. Thank goodness. Like when I was 13.
Could you imagine?
You know what I mean? Or like I didn't grow up in a world where my popularity literally had a number attached to it on my Instagram account when I was a teenager. I can't imagine what that would have done to me as a teenager. I can't imagine the things I would have done online. So like now that we do have that for like the younger generation and for people our age, like I think just only focusing on the fact that 10 years ago you didn't have the right lens, while you should have had the right lens, like not excusing it. At the same time, people have to learn how. People have to grow.
That's the thing, and we're judging everything 300 years back, like all the way up to 300 years back through this lens.
Sure.
And so there's some things that yes, definitely need to change. We need to grow, but there's some things that's like wait. Like, let's just focus on how to do it better now.
Yeah.
Like, we're all here together. Let's just we can do it better than they did it.
Yes,
and we can use their example as how not to do it. But I mean,
but like we've had this conversation before too. Like
we got
Henry Ford changed the world with cars, but like he was racist. He had like had like terrible personal ties. Like if we would have looked at him the same lens as now, and I'm not saying the lens is incorrect. I'm just saying it was a different time. Right. So like I was reading this article about just like what geniuses are we not allowing to be geniuses now because of their messy past. And it's such a complicated question to me because I don't think people should be racist. I don't think I don't agree with that. But it's just like different times are different things.
Think of like it's not a lot of it.
I'm very grateful it's changing.
And that's what we need to focus on, right? It's like he gave us the car. Yes, everybody has a checkered past.
Let's cancel them after we get that V8 into me.
Yeah, exactly. like I don't know.
My Ford's
we got the keys.
It doesn't feel super black and white to me.
Yeah.
I love though that we're having the conversation though.
Yeah.
That's what I think it is. Right. Is like I think you just got to be willing to talk about it. Like it's not like. Could you imagine at home, like your spouse does something and you just instantly start screaming about divorce? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, that's just not
about 7 years ago, you said this to me and it hurt my feelings.
No, but
you
women
need
do
to
that.
Move on.
Hold on.
But it's not
Those
a healthy
memories are there. Thank you. It's
not a way to go forward.
I don't do that stuff that I used to do. You know what I mean? Like we all grow. That's what I don't like. I don't like that people are like scouring people's Twitters from 10 years ago.
Oh man.
Like there are actually people doing that.
Yeah.
Before we went
and that's so sad.
Funny, they were like they scanned everything.
Everything.
Yeah, and we had to I think we had to take a couple things down. Probably Jeremy's tweets. His tweets are insane.
See, and to me that's so like sad. Like you're not judged on what you are now, right? Mm-hmm. Like you could be the greatest, most philanthropic person ever, but oh my gosh!
Well, because
see
everything's
this tweet
documented.
from 12 years ago, we can't work with that person.
Yeah. And I also think
that's unhealthy.
Well, and I'm also glad it's educating us. Like I hope my kids learn that when things go online, it's online forever.
Amen to that.
And I think when
for sure.
And I think when like social media was new, no one was thinking about that.
Guinea pigs,
no way.
No one was thinking about that. But now, like, oh yeah, if you're gonna have a job interview in 10 years, this is gonna be online forever. You know what I mean? Like,
your personal brand.
Yeah,
it's real whether you want it or not.
So I'm a big believer in like kids should not be on the internet until like their brains are fully formed, and it's for reasons like
Isn't
this.
That, like 25 when that happens or something.
Well, it's scary.
You can't rent a car till you're 25. Isn't that funny? Like it totally
you could do
right.
so much more before that.
I think it's actually like 31. Like when the frontal lobe is completely done.
I am 31.
I think it's 31 years old. I just heard that the other day.
Give Natalie Twitter now.
What's crazy? Like just yesterday, I was golfing with Danny Deaton. He was on our podcast, and he was talking about he was working with some kids, and they were young kids, and they were like not doing well, and it all came from social media.
Yep.
Really?
Like they found something on TikTok on how to commit suicide.
I believe you.
It's everywhere.
You know what I mean? It's just like
wow.
And so it's finding ways to have those discussions.
Well, and and think about like how like social media can affect me mentally. And I've been married for 10 years. I have 3 kids. I've got a super solid foundation. And like, even then, like I look at everyone's perfect curated life versus my messy life. And I feel terrible about myself sometimes.
That's such a good point.
And imagine a 13-year-old girl doing that. Like, because everything is just curated to perfection.
No smartphones, people. No smartphones until your kids are at least a year or 2 into high school.
Oh man,
I don't know.
Or 31.
Even then,
I got my first smartphone in college.
Our tentative. I have an 8-year-old as my oldest, and our tentative plan is he can have a smartphone as soon as he can pay the monthly bill for it.
Oh,
like 16 or older,
Careful.
and you have a
He's
job.
gonna
Be
get
careful. TikTok will pay for
you
that
can start
phone.
to make money.
TikTok will pay for that phone.
TikTok.
That's
Careful.
that's like
Or
an
the Gap
interesting-
wireless phone.
It's such an
Well, that's
interesting
what we just
concept.
got
Gab
for
would be
12-year-old.
awesome.
Yeah.
That new Gab
We
phone.
love Gab wireless.
They just came out with the new one, and
That's
it's we're finally going to let her have that. But
gotta be
no
great.
internet, no nothing.
Yeah, I think we think about that a lot because so much of our presence is online that we're like, where's our responsibility?
Yeah,
to like,
and it is teenagers.
You know what I
like,
mean?
It is like
That's
a lot
kind
of
of your audience,
it's younger
right?
people. Yeah, I mean, we think about kids like that all the time. And then that was one of the reasons, like when Black Lives Matter was happening, we felt it was really important that we post something.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they're just like the majority of our audience are like pretty privileged white teenagers that their opinions are forming, and they need to know where we stand at
For
least
sure.
if that's going to make a difference for what they research and what they learn about. So stuff like that, that's probably the most political we've ever even
that
gotten.
is people were
It was-
shooketh because we don't
we don't really
do
that.
like sides and stuff like that, but that was something that
It felt
everyone
beyond
pretty
political
strong.
to us,
Yeah.
obviously.
There's a lot of stuff like that where it's like it shouldn't be political.
Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah.
But like,
Well, and
yeah.
being quiet is like we learned from your host. So we had that episode, right? We had a couple of our
Nice.
friends come in, and it was pretty heavy stuff. But I remember your host Bonner saying, not saying anything is as bad as saying
Just
something
complying.
against it,
Right,
right?
yeah.
Like it. Like I was looking. I want to see my friends. What was the MLK quote that was so good? Like we won't remember
The
bad
actions of
things
our enemies,
people
but the silence of our friends.
will
Or
remember the
something
silence
like that.
of our
Yeah,
friends.
You got those quotes, man.
And so
You are a quote
I
machine.
remembered that one. Okay.
I mean,
I want that notated.
you
I
had like
remembered
the
half of that quote.
MKL version. He had the MLK.
This sucks. I never get the quotes. I'm gonna put a book here next time.
You get.
MKL.
This is what you get for inviting.
Who is that MKL
comedians on
guy?
board.
He said something
Martin?
about. No, I was kidding.
No, but
But no, it's very true. Like just saying
Dude.
something. He was like, I was noticing my friends that weren't saying anything.
bro, it's 100%, man.
And it's
Yeah.
and it's true. It's like
100%.
you got to at least. You don't need to put some big drawn out thing. We
Mm-hmm.
were talking about Blackout Tuesday.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a black
Like to
square.
me, that felt really like virtue signally.
yeah, like
Yeah.
informative.
People are just
Right.
like, oh, I want to be cool and have the black screen. But then he told me that what I just said, the whole like, but it's something. Whether
Right. It's
there's a
better than
lot behind it or not, it's getting people thinking about it, and that totally changed my perception on it because it's like, yeah, even if you guys just posted, a Black Lives Matter or something with just something to show that we're unified and we all need to do a little bit better,
Yeah.
it at least gets people thinking,
Or
right?
just learn more, because at least I felt like with that whole movement, like I've grown up in such a different, I'm a white woman. I grew up in a like upper middle class family. There's so like I've had no interactions with so many things that black people have interactions with all the time.
Right.
So I felt really uneducated, but all you have to say is, hey, I'm uneducated. I'm going to learn more, and you should too. Like that's what I
Right.
learned from it. It's just like
You guys-
even
man.
just saying that and just saying like I had no idea about some of the stuff going on, and instead of feeling like shame and embarrassment, I'm going to try to do better. I'm going to try to learn more. Here's some resources that I found helpful. That's basically all I've done.
Well,
I've
like-
just been like, I'm not an expert here. I'm not going to even pretend, but I want everyone to learn with me.
But that's real, and
Isn't that real?
That's
Well,
very real.
weird-
Yeah.
That's
Refreshing.
What we want.
when we were talking with Yehosh and Tim, like they were fantastic, and Cam actually made the comment like you guys are going to be able to do so much good just because of how awesome they were about talking about it.
Yeah.
And they're like, actually, you can do more
Right.
Yeah.
talking to us, because it's like you know how to talk to your friends and you know how to have those conversations, you know. And
I tell people that all the time. It's like, it's not going to be the black community that changes. It's going to be white people talking to their friends and family.
That's right.
Yeah.
No,
because
that's exactly right.
we're going to always be seen as others, but you guys are like,
well, we all need to talk like you were just talking, right?
Yeah.
you know how to do the handshakes.
We need to not judge. It's so funny. I feel like most of the vitriol online about Black Lives Matter is from other white people. Like white people getting mad at white people.
Sure.
It's really interesting, right? Which this is like the cancel culture stuff, right? Instead of us like just being able to talk to each other and say like, yeah, we all got to step it up.
Yeah.
Right? Especially in an area like Utah where there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of black people. You don't grow up with black people. You don't have, it's not that people are racist. They're just inexperienced, uneducated.
And I think they feel sometimes some shame attached to that.
And they shouldn't feel shame. They should just like, be willing to listen and learn. And that's the discussion that needs to be had.
I have strong feelings on antagonizing people that we're trying to like if you want someone, and this is coming from, I'm black in case people are listening and they're like, what is he? You can't say that.
We should have said that right up front.
I could say it. Listen.
And Stacey, the black guy, he's here.
the black guy.
Fashion icon.
And anyone in Utah would be like, oh, I know that one black guy.
Yeah.
But it's it's
the
like
fashion icon. Yeah, that's right.
We're never going to get people on our side or encourage change if we antagonize people.
Amen.
I'm like so anti.
You're gonna push people away.
Man, it's like I get you're angry. You have every right to be angry and hurt and upset, but like if you want to make some change, playa, you can't antagonize people.
And I guess that kind of touches on a little bit about like our comedy philosophy. Like we're not big fans of like alienating or putting down. Like we want it, and I mean, comedy is comedy. Sometimes you have to be extreme. Sometimes you have to, go to crazy places. But the idea here is like, I would rather unify someone with a joke than like divide someone, because we're all like, it's been actually really fun this year to do some like 2020 specific stuff because we're all in this insane boat together. And there's all this division about it, about masks and about what should be done and all this stuff. But like, ultimately we should all feel more unified this year because this virus is not selective to race or, well, it kind of is. It
actually does.
But that's a whole different thing. But like,
actually,
but like the virus is true for every person on this earth.
Right.
If there's anything to unite us, it's something like that. You know what I mean? But it's been such a swing in the other direction that I've been really proud of how we've tried to like unify instead of divide.
We really are trying to do our best to like, and I think part of that is acknowledging this really tough thing where it's like people that believe things that are different than you have a reason for believing things that are different than you.
Yeah.
And they're not
and that goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
It goes both ways. Like,
it's like there's a reason that people feel the way they do, and it's not just because they're horrible people.
Right.
Yeah.
And if they're there and ready to try to be better, that's all that matters. Like the present is all that matters, not their past.
Right.
Like not what they said 5 years ago. Like, hey, they're here. They're ready to listen. They're ready to grow. They're ready to change. Like,
let's celebrate.
Yeah.
So important.
Something you just said reminded me of something that I don't know a lot about, but you talked about like the comedy and wanting to, like not put other people down.
Yeah.
Didn't Chrissy Teigen tweet something about that for you guys?
Yeah. I just posted my stories.
I saw that.
It was a year ago. So Chrissy Teigen was a judge on Bring the Funny.
Oh, okay.
And I remember when it was either our first or second episode. I don't remember what round it was, but it was about a year ago. She tweeted and was just like, my sense of humor is always really filthy, but JK makes me laugh. Like I love JK Studios. And then she compared us to Parks and Rec. And I remember reading that and wanting to faint because that's like maybe my favorite show I've ever watched in my entire life. Like I think I've rewatched that show once a year forever. Anyway, but yeah, I think sometimes when people hear like clean comedy, they think like, oh, it's going to be like a Disney Channel in front of an audience. It's going to be like Hannah Montana.
Really dumb jokes.
Yeah. Or like,
you're just like farting on camera. And
right. or like, oh, so it's a kid show.
Like,
don't get me wrong. I love a good fart, but
we love a good
fart. Not on NBC, baby.
It has to be in a clever context.
It's got to be clever. Got a good timbre.
You got to earn the fart.
Okay, we're done.
I love where we've gone with this.
Yeah,
Man,
we're just going all over.
How to fart to Black Lives Matter to Corona.
Welcome to me and Stacey. This is what we talk about all the time.
We've talked about that.
We'll swing from one topic to another, no problem.
It's like, it's a vibe.
So I'm curious though, like when did you guys know like Studio C was something that like you know, it was going to turn into something. As you talked about, the first couple of years, you paid babysitters more than you were making. Right. And so like, when did it start to kind of turn? And then after that, I want to talk about, when did you start to know it was the end?
Oh, those are both really good questions.
Dang.
I don't know if I have a specific moment where I thought like, okay, but I do remember Scott Sterling going viral was a big deal. We were working towards, I think we had just had our first video hit 1 million views. That was like such a goal for us.
I think, was it 100,000?
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
Our goal was to have Mother Preggers. No, or the Hunger Games.
Oh yeah.
It was one of them. Our goal was to have like the Hunger Games hit 100,000, and then this like moms rapping about being pregnant actually hit it kind of fast.
Yeah, that's right. And it hit 1 million.
We were like, well, we hit 100,000.
I think it was about to hit 1 million, because I remember when Scott Sterling went viral, I sent an email, because the goal forever was like, as soon as we get a video to hit 1 million views, we'll have a pizza party. We're like primed ourselves. 13. And I remember sending an email and it was at like 70 million or something. And I was like, do you think we can get toppings on our pizza? Because it was 70 million. Like, I remember writing that and being like, hey, we did it. Times Sterling, 70.
It just, we didn't predict it, but it came out, and just, if anything, we took that sketch back to the drawing board a little bit, because after we filmed it, we were like, you know.
Yeah, there was a lot of like rewrites, and the narration over it was redone like 5 times. Yeah.
But it just like came out of nowhere, and I feel like for me, that's when I was like, yo, our stuff is getting watched by more people. We saw significant growth, and it was really encouraging.
I think that was cool audience wise. And then our season 5 was when I was hired as like a full-time cast member and writer. I think you were too at the same time. And that was probably the first time I felt like, okay, like I'm in.
Yeah.
Like it, so that, you know,
season 5.
It took me 5 years to feel that way.
Yeah.
And how many years? Well, how many years before with
4
Divine?
Yeah.
So I mean, you're 9 years into basically a full-time job before it became a full-time job.
Yeah. And I think that was probably me just relying too much on like external people being like, okay, we'll now hire you full-time. Like I clearly was equipped to do that before then. But that was when I felt like, okay, we're like in this thing and we're really doing it. And then as far as like when it was like, okay, we should maybe start looking onward, it was probably wasn't that long after, to be honest with you, probably just like 2 or 3 years after, where like, okay, we're getting on to season 8, maybe season 9. What do we want to do? And so,
is this what we want to do forever?
Like we can't play teenagers in sketches all forever. You know what I mean? Like we just can't. We love
do what they do in the movies.
I know. Tell that to CW.
25-year-olds playing 16-year-olds.
Yeah.
He's like ripped out of his mind. It's like, no 16-year-old has.
I know. That's
like,
so true.
What is this?
That's so true. We should do a sketch about that.
I'm 16.
But like I remember. Maybe in season 8, we were like, okay, let's see what else we want to do. Like, we just kind of felt like we want to branch out of sketch. So
want to do sitcoms, movies, want to explore web series.
So we started developing these like sitcom shows, started pitching to BYUtv, and they weren't really interested. And so we said, okay, maybe we need to do this ourselves then. You know, like if BYUtv isn't going to be like our forever home, like if they don't want us to grow here, at least in other directions in content, then we should probably start looking elsewhere.
Because the key was growth. It was like a conversation between stability. We had this thing that we could have probably done even if we had no viewers up until the end. Yeah. Or we had this chance to like grow, you know?
And it's such a strange thing. Like you kind of want to capitalize on the momentum before you start to lose it. But then you leave something with momentum and you have to start over.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. So we left almost 2 years ago, and I've worked harder in the last 2 years than in my entire life. It's been exhausting. It's been fun. It's been rewarding. It's been
stressful.
We've pivoted business plans like 5 times. You know what I mean? Like it's just been a wild ride, especially with this year.
Who was the first one of the 10 that had the guts to say, guys, we need to bounce?
Matt and Mal were already like, we're going to leave. And then
they were feeling ready they were like, we're feeling antsy. We want to do something new. And
then we met some friends who were kind of doing their own like online media company, and they were good mentors to just kind of say like, this is something you could do if you want to try. And so we just kind of learned what we could. We all met together as a group, and we just decided that leaving together is like the strongest move we can do, rather than some people go here, some people go there. We just knew like we have our creative team. We found it. We want to keep making stuff together for as long as we can. And so we just decided we should officially make our own entity that we all just own. And then when we go off and do side projects, you know, we'll always do that. But then we always have this hub of JK where we can always come together and make stuff. So that's kind of how we did it.
We kind of knew that like, even though we couldn't take the name Studio C with us, and we'd put so much energy into building that up, we also knew that our faces, to a degree, were the brand. We knew that together.
Yeah.
Recognize, you see us together, and it's like, oh yeah, these guys did all these sketches. Like they'd be able to look at us and see,
oh, it's those people, but their name is different now, basically.
So how did you guys come up with? I mean, you talked about she's the CEO. Sometimes that's really uncomfortable. I know, like in business, where you have partners that have all equally contributed to building something, and now all of a sudden like someone has to stand up and raise their hand and be like, I'm in charge. And someone has to do that, or you're not going to succeed on the business side. Like you have to have roles, you have to have accountability. So how did you guys kind of navigate that?
Dude, we're
through
still
blood, sweat, and tears.
I know we're such a, our group functions in such a unique way. Like, I don't know any other group that functions like us, but we're so democratic. And so we like vote on everything, and which is nice in some ways, but it just,
it's definitely a double-edged sword. I think it's what makes our comedy so great, because we feel so democratic. Like we all own it.
It's hard to believe, to be honest.
It's seriously,
you know what I mean? Like just with human nature, especially when you become more popular and more people kind of know who you are, and people, it's just human nature to start thinking like, well, I'm better than this person, and I feel like I'm carrying this weight. Like that's a really hard thing, especially when it's performers.
Sure.
Right? Like you are in front of a camera.
I really feel like we lucked out on that degree, because we check each other too. If someone starts getting a big head, we're really good at being like, let's pop that real quick.
How do you do that though?
I think
we just make fun of each other.
I think there's a value in it though. Like I remember, this is going to sound very strange and kind of like hoity-toity, so sorry. But when the shows first started kind of taking off, our Jared Shores, our producer showrunner, had like a psychologist come in and talk to us about like how to deal with, hey, you're getting stopped at the store, you're getting, your life is changing. And he talked about the importance of, you'll have people in your life before and you will have people after, and that baseline is the most important. So like you'll make new friends as you meet new, like all this stuff, and those will be great relationships, and don't shy away from it. But you knew each other before this, and you will know each other after. So keep that in mind. So like, I think that's always been like a good baseline for me with like the way I treat my teammates. 'Cause it's just like, at this point, it's kind of like siblings. So it's basically like a family owned business, which, people say don't go into business with family. It gets really complicated, and it does get complicated. I won't say it won't, but at the end of the day, we're all like siblings too. Yeah. So like we could file bankruptcy tomorrow. We're still all going to be friends and family. We just have that baseline. And because I knew them before people recognized me at the store, and I'm still going to know them after people forget about me. Like that's just true.
We've been through some stuff too together, man.
Yeah, we have.
Some, it's like being friends for like what, over 10 years?
Yeah, we've had. Yeah, I mean, there's babies together. Like my kids call him Uncle Stacey. Like we've all grown up together, and I think that's pretty unique.
Oh, 100%. And the fact that you're still together,
dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the cool thing, is it sounds like you guys have always done things like, here's my idea, everybody hop on.
Yeah.
And that way, it's not like one person feels like they're bringing all the ideas, bringing all the,
Yeah.
And that does create, but it is, I mean, I'm sure anybody in showbiz you talk to, you're like, I don't buy it. Like, no way. That can't be real.
We're also just
can't be real.
We're so encouraging of people pursuing their own passions. If we're like, if it doesn't fit in this JK brand or model that we're doing,
go do
like,
it though.
Do your thing.
Yeah.
You got our support.
Yeah.
But we just we've created something that's taken like a decade, if not more, and it's really special. And it's super
But why
unique.
Natalie CEO? We still haven't figured this out.
Natalie, because she's type A, man.
Is that it? Like she's the boss?
No, Natalie's not only the most organized, but she's like, Natalie's output is phenomenal. I talk about this concept of like, everyone has the same amount of time in the same day, right?
Right.
But some people are able to like do more.
Yeah, moms.
Yeah. No,
but Natalie, like,
I think
why wouldn't you want a mom as a CEO? Like,
I think it's because I'm a mom.
And Natalie's like
60%.
She's like leveled up so much as we've like ventured into the business aspect, which is something kind of new. But Natalie's just like, and I'm not saying Natalie has like hyper special gifts. I think she does, but I think part of it is like she's like thrown down the work and like sacrificed in ways that have been like, well, clearly we trust her, and
like true to her group, this was never something that I was like, hey, I'd really like to do this
for sure.
Like no, like
which makes her better sometimes.
Like things that like as we were like nose down grinding out these web series, working really hard. There's just people that are more levitated towards like, all right, well, I'm going to go right, or I'm going to go figure out how we're going to do
like
this.
Grabbing the reins.
And I was like, well, no one's figuring this crap out. I'll go figure it out. You know what I mean? And then so it just kind of happened. Like my degree's in theater education. I don't know what I'm doing. And so like I read a lot of business books.
I have them at all.
That's true.
Right? We've learned. Like
my husband is in business management and he helped us get started. And then I've learned a lot from him of how he manages. And then it's been like trial by fire, man.
She consumes a ton of books.
You just get in there and you learn what you can, and you try to like hone in on, does that apply to our business? Does that not apply to our business? I have my good friend Allison Faulkner. She does like business consulting. I was talking to her once, and she was like, every business thinks they're a unicorn. Because I was talking to her, I was like, no one out there's like us. You know, we're like YouTubers, but we're not. We're like an ad company, but we're not. We're a media company. We do sponsors. We do other stuff. And she's like, hold on. You're not a unicorn. Like, you're not unique.
Everyone thinks they're the exception to the rule.
Everyone thinks they're the exception to the rule. Learn the basic business principles. Just learn them. They're out there. It's not that hard. And I was like, you're right.
Kind of a unicorn, though. I disagree.
I mean,
I feel like we are too.
I mean, just the way you work together.
But like, you know what? At the end of the day, a business needs a profit. A business needs a product. A business needs an audience. A business like there's things just like, oh yeah, that's true. That's true for everyone. And I think up until that conversation, I had just had this mentality of like, well, we're just different, so we're just going to do everything.
Everyone's
really
advice doesn't apply to us because they don't know us. They don't know our situation. It's like, well,
And while it's good to know what makes you different, for sure, that was helpful
but that
for
won't
me
make you
learning
money,
how
I guess, right?
I guess not. And like, and almost playing like a victim card sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
It just doesn't, especially when you're leading, doesn't help. It's a waste of energy. You know what I
Absolutely
mean?
right.
For sure.
Like, yeah, 2020 sucks. We lost a bunch of sponsorships. I can't give that any energy.
Everybody's lost a bunch of sponsorships.
Everyone's lost it. Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
What a unique time for online consuming content. You
and
know
what
I mean?
a unique time to like lift the world up a little bit. Like you
exactly.
guys, I was going to say that earlier, just talking about all the, we were kind of getting into the negativity and, all the stuff that's been happening that's been hard lately, right? But you guys are in such a unique position to just be such a light. And because that's what we need. It was funny. I was looking at your, Natalie, your Instagram post, the month by month, like your faces. Oh my gosh.
Don't you love that trend?
That was so funny. Like you're just like the Joker, like bigger, just that face. Like April, May was just tears in bed, and it was so good. But that's what we need. Like we got to be able to laugh about it, and we got to take what's happening.
I always say, like, you got to laugh or you'll cry.
Exactly
I feel like that's true about life.
Exactly
you got to laugh, otherwise you're just gonna be so sad.
I feel like it's worth being said that, like, we talk about the negative stuff and everything, and like it does feel like 2020 is this giant dumpster fire.
Right.
But like the world has been getting better since day one.
Yeah.
Like we are so much farther ahead. We are way better, like country. Like we are so much better than we used to be, and it's kind of cool to be like we're progressing.
This is the year. I just feel like it's a purifying year. Like the only visual I can think of, and I'm sorry, it's gross, is like it just feel like it's like a whitehead that's just like it's finally popped.
I use that too. I love that.
Like I spent too much time with you, but like there's been all this junk under our skin for a long time, and it's finally like all this pressure is just pushing it up, and we just got to deal with it, and we're gonna be better after it.
Pop it.
You just gotta pop it.
Maybe a couple times because it's a juicy one.
Oh, gross! I can't believe how much we're digging into this, and I regret everything.
You messed up when you brought it up. I'm on board now. I'm on board.
But it's just like there's something about this year, like it's so tough, it's nasty, it hurts, but like it's gonna make it better.
That's change, baby.
Yeah, it's change. It's
and we got to come together. It's funny. You look at 9/11 and you look at how all of us were on the same team for like 2 weeks after.
Yeah.
It, right.
Well, Corona, right at the beginning, everyone was on the same team.
Right now, it's just further proof that media, like. They really push the fear button. Like that's how they get us to watch.
Really do.
And that is what drives us apart. When we have these conversations, we remember like we're all so different in here. Like we all come from different places, all 4 of us, all 5 of us. Like, but man, we're having this awesome conversation. And that's what it would happen. The people that you hate online, if you sat down and talked to them face to face, you'd be friends after.
You'd never talk to someone like you would, like people do online.
Totally right. And that's what's wrong. Like this is what needs to happen. And I think that it's finally getting to the point where people are starting to realize that and realize. Like,
I think a lot of people are.
The mask thing. You brought the mask thing up, Natalie, right? It's funny. In the beginning, I was like, this is so dumb. Like, I'm not wearing a mask. Like, blah, 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 blah. I was rebel. Well, I like to rebel, right?
Sure.
Well, then it got to the point where, like, I'm a conservative. People on my side of the line were getting way too crazy about the anti-mask thing. So I'm like, you guys need to chill. I'm going to start wearing a mask to show like my side of the fence. Like, you guys need to relax. Like, we don't all need to be like way over here. Like, let's start coming to the middle a little bit.
I feel like
healthy, man.
I feel like most human beings are pretty moderate people.
Yes.
Like everyone's
when they're not online,
pretty moderate.
Correct.
When they're not online,
politically,
right? It's like everyone has to draw a line in the sand online. Where if you're face to face with somebody that thinks totally opposite of you, right?
You can have a discussion.
You're going to have a great conversation about it, and I'm going to learn some new things. They're going to learn some new things, and it's going to be like, maybe this. We'll say like politically. Before social media, before the internet existed,
before
there was a lot more moderation because they just had to talk things out. They didn't have email and Twitter and
write a letter.
The press to throw their little passive aggressive whatevers out. So what I'm hoping comes out of this, and I feel like I'm starting to see it, is that people realize that we've got to focus on this part, like the personal, the face to face, and not listen to the narrative being thrown our way
like,
from
teams concept where you just defend the side.
It's like all or nothing.
We're all humans at the base.
Right. And I so the reason I brought up masks to clarify my point is now when I go to a store in Utah County, I'm seeing a lot more masks. Which to me means like we're all like starting to come together a little bit.
I agree.
And I don't judge you if you don't wear it. Like we all got to make our own decision. But to me, it just kind of shows that now we're all kind of starting to jump onto the same team. And it's like, hey, it's a small sacrifice to make. And look at what the numbers are doing.
Well, I mean,
they're dropping like crazy in Utah. And so we're getting somewhere. So anyway.
Well, even like selfishly, like with the podcast, like being able to have conversations, you know what I mean?
So
like
good
for a couple of weeks ago, we had Charlie Bird come on the podcast,
Great guy, man.
And with
he's
the Cosmo.
Cosmo.
But like he just dropped his book.
It's good.
And I don't think I've even talked to you about this, but like I've had some people come up to me after that podcast and they're like, we've had members in our family who came out as gay and we pushed them away. After listening to that podcast, they called them that day.
Oh, that's amazing.
And they apologized.
Look at you guys.
And they're like,
look at you guys.
And now all of a sudden they have relationships with these people again. It's like, that is awesome. Like the ability to open up the conversation to someone
and just
willing
humanize
to talk.
people.
Yes.
Just like they all of a sudden become a human.
Yeah.
Like a three-dimensional actual person.
I feel like at the end of the day, we all kind of want the same thing. You know what I mean?
Totally right.
We're just all trying to be happy. We're just all trying to be like,
it's true.
Just want to vibe.
We all just want to laugh.
We all just want to laugh.
And that's
amen.
That's what
there's
it's
no
all
one
about.
on here that doesn't want to have
And we want to watch sports.
Yeah.
And how glorious is it right now?
I want to hear the coaches is what I want.
Thank you.
Yes.
I've converted another one. I want to hear the coaches.
It didn't take much,
without
man.
beeps.
I was ready.
I do want to hear the coaches.
You guys, so where can everyone find you? We're going to wrap up. So where does everyone go to find you guys
I don't want to wrap up.
JK Studios.
This is fun.
Yeah.
I know, it is fun. JK Studios lives on YouTube.
Okay.
So that's probably our number one place to find us. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. We have weekly videos. We do sketches. We have a web series called Freelancers, a sitcom we made. There's 8 episodes online.
Yeah.
And then we have 2 seasons of a show called Loving Life, which is like a parody show about influencers.
Great name, by the way.
Thank you. It's with the Y.
JK Studios.
Oh, I thought you meant Loving
Sorry,
Life.
all those are good too. But
JK Studios is good.
I love the name.
Thanks, man. We put a lot of. The discussion was fun.
It was hard to
perfect.
pick. So I'm glad you think so. So anyway, yeah, we've got web series. We've got lots of stuff you can watch on that channel. We're on Instagram, JK Studios. Yeah.
That's it.
More April Fool's stuff. That's the real stuff. The
real
Bad joke
takeaway here
video.
is-
We're past April. We'll do a little October Fool's.
Oh, that was so fun. That's such a great. But see, that's why the podcast is fun. Is getting that type of information, right? Like,
That
I love that video.
BTS.
But to hear Natalie say, I thought it was ridiculous. Like it almost makes me mad that people thought it was funny. It makes it even better. So anyway,
We had a good time. You sent a screenshot of that of us back in the day when we were.
Yeah, because we're both like minimum 20 pounds heavier in that sketch too. It's really funny. Like I said, I had all my babies on that show. So I'm like either pregnant or postpartum on like half of it.
Started at the bottom picture.
Filter down to the kids, like to performing, like your 8-year-old.
They've been in
is
stuff.
that there?
They have been in stuff. They don't like being in stuff. Except for my daughter Kate is
she's got
ham.
Really?
We're in trouble.
She's a ham.
She's a ham. I love it.
We're in trouble with her.
That's so awesome.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys, for coming.
So much.
It was such a good time.
Thanks for having
was
us.
so fun.
Sorry for looking like a garden gnome again.
It's derelict. Don't you remember
Stacey
Zoolander?
came in
Stacey?
clothes from DI. I just wanted to
derelict
The
fashion. Just to clarify, I came in. I was late because I went to shower at like a place I used to live, and I just remembered I don't have any clothes, but I found DI clothes. I look like I've been through some stuff.
You look great.
His belt is a necktie.
You're working it.
You'll see it in the picture.
I'm excited. All right,
thanks.
whatever. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, you guys.